Join us on this week's WRRAP podcast. We will talk through all of the fun bits of Judgment Day. We'll have a chat about why it's a good thing, what needs to improve, all of the games. We'll take a look ahead, and as we near the squeaky bum time of the season, we'll have a good old dive into the Prediction League. Let's get on with the show. Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the WRRAP podcast with me, Lee G. Sitting in for Jamie this week, we've got Dan, Nick, and Harley. Good evening, gentlemen.
How's it going?
Everybody?
Now, you can tell from that welcome that Dan is a little bit cheerier than the rest of us, and he's a little bit cheerier than most Dragons fans after this weekend. But we'll get to that bit in a minute, and we'll let him have his 5 minutes of fame in a minute. So let's kick off with the news then, Nick. So Nick's news that I haven't got an introduction for you, mate. I haven't got a witty little thing, so you're just going to have to go.
No problem. I don't need it. It's been actually in official news. It's actually been quite quiet. I'm expecting perhaps a little bit more news this week with final home games for some of the teams and maybe some announcements about maybe signings. But on the official side of things, Dragons have announced that Argentina international prop Rodrigo Martinez, 26, will be extending his stay with the Dragons, agreeing a year contract. So yeah, he's been a decent performer in my view. And for a prop, still relatively young at 26, and he's made 27 appearances over 2 seasons. And obviously, really good news for Cardiff. And I thought, when we come to talk about the game, I thought he was very focused and gave it his all and showed a bit of class on Saturday. Wales wing Josh Adams has signed a new deal to stay with Cardiff. And, I thought maybe even before the latest news, he might be one on his way. So that's really good news for Cardiff, good luck to both of them. And just a shout out, maybe if that's okay, Lee, to the under 18 team who went undefeated in their competition, a little festival they had down in Vichy. To won 41-39. It was a bit squeaky bums time if you managed to watch it on YouTube on Friday morning, I think it was, against Italy. We went quite ahead, and then they came back. But, they're young players, aren't they? And, they're going to make mistakes, obviously. It was very interesting, I thought, what Andy Lloyd, the team manager, said afterwards about this group of players. And he's also involved with the 20s, that he does see there's, good players in the system. They'll take time to come through, of course. Maybe where we are now is perhaps as a nation, maybe as a regional team, is a reflection of where this sort of level was 4 or 5 years ago. Because that's the sort of time span you're going to take for these players to fully mature with the right coaching. So let's hope that is the case. Shout out to a couple of players. I thought Rhys Cummins from Cardiff was very good, and Bailey Cutts. Jack Hopkins in the centre for the Ospreys was powerful. Karen Leggett-Jones definitely looks a real prospect from the Scarlets. Kai Jones was very good in the second row, and the captain Kerrick Smith was excellent in the back row for the Dragons, from the Dragons, and Alfie Pagotzic from Cardiff as well in the back row. So, among many players, very young players, obviously, but there's definitely some talent there. So, yeah, that's it, I think, in regards to news, official news anyway.
We'll come to unofficial news in a minute, but then before we get to that, we're going to do like Dan's proper headline. Like Nick's just done Welsh rugby news, but this is world rugby news. This is earth-shattering news now, Dan. Come on, fella. How was your weekend?
Well, my weekend was better than most in the Dragons region because Abertillery actually won Division 1 East. So we have officially been promoted after winning away at Bedlinog 28-19. So we're going to be a championship team next season, which we're all very, very pleased with. So, yeah, it's a testament to the league, I think, that it's been so close. There's lots of good teams in there. It's been very attritional rugby that we were speaking about prior to going live now. And I think it'll be another good league next season. So we're just hoping that, we're out of it, we can do ourselves justice a league up. and survive in that league, ultimately, you've got to pay the league respect. So if we can stay in the championship next season, that'll be a Brucey bonus for us. But yeah, all the hard work and dedication that the club has put into sort of keeping the club alive over the last sort of 10, 15 years, and especially since COVID, the committee there and everybody else and the coaches that have been in before me, Mr. Penny and Mr. Meredith there, they've done a sterling job, and all the boys. Yeah, they've got their just rewards for putting their bodies on the line all season over the last sort of 6 months. So yeah, what a fantastic weekend. So I did miss Judgment Day, but there was a good reason for it.
So what time did you get to bed on Saturday night then, mate?
Oh,
Were there one or two beers to be drunk?
there were 1 or 2 beers, yeah. It may have been Sunday morning, I'm not quite sure. But yeah, it was a good night. And I must say, Bedlinog were fantastic hosts. Clapped us out to the club when we left. We stayed behind for a couple of beers, stuck a load of beer on the bus for the boys as well. So, what a fantastic club that is. Yeah, it was just a great day all around. They don't come around too often, do they? Winning leagues, no matter the level you play at. It takes a whole squad or a whole club to go and win them. So yeah, it was fantastic, and a day that'll live long in my memory. My 9-year-old boy, actually was stood behind the posts. I like to stand behind the posts at away games. And as soon as the whistle went, he was straight on me, jumping all over me and stuff. So it was special to share it with him as well. So yeah, it was a great day.
Yeah. So I'm going to share one story about a time when we were. So I used to play cricket and rugby. So obviously the end of the rugby season always clashes with the cricket season. And at that time, we play the first game of the cricket season. We moved it to the Sunday because we all knew we had a big game on the Saturday. So we won the game on the Saturday. It was a home game, home fixture. And so everybody went out on the lash. I mean, everybody, it was a massive. We get to the cricket game on the Sunday about 1 o'clock. Stumps are about 1:30, 2 or whatever. And there was a guy that used to play for us called Jason. Where's Jason, boys? Because he was opening bat. Yeah, well, I don't know. He was out last night. Yeah, has anybody seen him since? No. We phoned him. Go, Jason, where are you, man? We're Stumps in like 20 minutes. Oh, I'm not going to make the game, boys. I ended up in Ireland. He'd gone out on for a couple of beers, and obviously all the pubs all shut. And somebody's gone, oh, well, the ferry is still open. If you're on the ferry, you can keep drinking. So a couple of them went on the ferry, got over to Ireland. That's like a 4 or 5 hour trip, and then had to come back over. So yeah, he was stuck in Ireland before. Now that is how you celebrate.
That is how you celebrate, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Let's move on then to Judgment Day. So before we discuss the games and all of that kind of malarkey, let's just talk about Judgment Day as a whole. So me and Nick were there in the pub, and we have got quite a bit of footage from Judgment Day still to come through. So me and Hugh will kind of put it together, and we'll put out like a separate Judgment Day review later in the week and what have you. But what did you think of it, Nick, as being there?
Well, first and foremost, I enjoyed the day very much. It was great to meet up with everybody, meet people, yourself, Lee, obviously Hugh from the Irk Rewind, Alan from that, obviously Jamie and Gavin as well from the Dragon's Lair, and some of the others from the other podcasts that are going around as well. I've met Sam and Rodri as well from the past, and it was so I think that's an element perhaps when we come to maybe move on about how the Judgment Day could be developed, that could be emphasized a bit more. It's about bringing people together. You might have your differences about who you support and so on, but it's about coming together as a rugby community, and I'm not sure we've got that quite right about how we sell Judgment Day, and maybe some work upon that. Obviously, people are going to talk about the crowd. I'm a half full person in some respects, and it's more than we had last year at the Cardiff City Stadium. So, and it probably reflects where we are. We had a couple of gates which were in the 60,000 mark. they have gone down over time. And I think if you look at those gates and where we are today with regards to that, I think it is probably the wrong time of the season as well. Even though there were 3 teams who had something to play for. I've heard people saying that maybe it should be played the first weekend. I'm not convinced on that one because, again, when you look at attendances for any team that has their first home game, they're not always used the highest, the first game of the season. It almost, whenever you start, it almost seems to take a couple of games before people get back into rugby. So I think maybe sometime early October, maybe even first weekend of October, half term, might be a better suggestion. But there's no advantage having a home game. That is definite. We were supposedly the home team. I think the Dragons are the home team as well. It's not a home game, obviously, with any shape or form. And I don't quite understand why Ospreys always have to play Cardiff and Dragons always have to play Scarlets. Why couldn't the Ospreys play Dragons and Cardiff play the Scarlets? So that's maybe something to consider. But I think it's worth giving it another go, but maybe need some further thoughts about how it could be developed.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I don't tend to get to many games nowadays, being way out in the middle of nowhere and all of that stuff. So, yeah, I was staying over in Cardiff, which actually made a massive difference for me because it meant I could hang around after and have a couple of beers and have a chat, and it was less pressure on it and stuff. So I really enjoyed the social side of it, just for the same reasons as yourself, Nick. Just the amount of people. What I will say, like we said on here last week, that we'll be a Tiny Rebel and come and say hello. The amount of people that came and said hello while we were in Tiny Rebel was a little bit shocking, to be fair. I managed to get myself interviewed by BBC Wales. That was quite interesting. They didn't really have much choice about interviewing me, so and I carded Hugh along with me as well, so that was a bit of fun. But yeah, even when we were walking like into the game, I was walking in with Hugh and Gav. No, Gav was already in there. So yeah, Alan, walking in with Alan, and you're still getting like nods and shakes and hello boys and all of that kind of thing from just complete strangers. So from that point of view, from the pod kind of point of view, that was really interesting because it's like, oh, people do listen. People do recognize us. People do say hello. And a lot of the comments, well, there wasn't any negative comments towards us, but a lot of the comments are very positive and people are enjoying the pod. So if you did do your predictions and saying hello and have your word, that'll be out later in the week. Yeah, once you get inside the stadium, it was a real shit. I know that they said that there was an issue with the roof, that they couldn't close the roof. I think that kind of maybe would have improved the atmosphere. We'll talk about the games in a minute, but I think the referee in the second game did kind of kill the mood a little with some of the, constant game interruptions. I quite liked it. I quite enjoyed it. The big thing about not having many people in the stadium is there were no queues for the bar. And where we were sat, you literally up the steps, turn right, and we were right next to the food. So it was almost like having your own takeaway right next to you. It was quite cool. Yeah, there's loads of stuff that they could do to improve it. Not just as an event, but like around the city and things like that, and the build up to it. I am a fan of having it on opening day, but I think the issue with it is that you rely on a lot of people, like students. It's a massive student day. They won't be in university at that point. Over Easter, they're all home. So that definitely adds to some of it. So yeah, I've really enjoyed it. But yeah, that's because we were there. So Dan and Harley, you were both kind of sat at home being nice obviously you were at the game, Dan, and then you've watched it after.
Yeah.
So Harley, I'm going to ask you first. what did you make of the game on the telly?
It was a bit of a hard one, so I managed to watch the Cardiff game on my TV because came back from the aquarium. Daughter was out for a nap, and then my sister came over right at the end and during the Dragons game. So I sort of had that on my phone whilst playing with my little nephew and stuff. So I mean, it didn't help that I feel like the commentary was so anti-Cardiff. Like it was just Holly and Grow just just saying how terrible, and it's like fair well. Like you can pick up on what a team's doing bad, but you can acknowledge the fact that the Ospreys are going nowhere with every attack they make. Like make it at least attempt to make it balanced. I mean, Richie Reese just does, at least he's fair with the amount of bollocks he chats. I like Richie Reese, but sometimes he chats that you have no idea where he's going with this point. So that doesn't help from the thing. I thought the stadium sounded flat. When you think that there were 28,000 people in the stadium, but for the Wales-England women's game, there was 21,000, and that sounded much better. The atmosphere around that was just better, and they had even fewer people in there. So it doesn't look. I said, I mean, I'm someone who's always loved going to Judgement Day. That was the thing that sort of gradually dragged me from just being a casual Wales fan into being properly going to Cardiff Rugby, become a season ticket holder until I moved down to Devon. So I love it. I think it's a great day out. I agree at the moment, towards the end of the season is not the right time, certainly not on a bank holiday weekend where lots of people are going away. For me, I don't want it on the first weekend, purely because one of the biggest complaints a lot of fans seem to have is the regions don't have their big stars. They're not going to have their big stars for a lot of the first few weeks because of international duty. Personally, I quite like the idea of someone pitched of having it a couple of weeks before the autumn internationals and you bill it as a Wales selection game.
Yeah.
I don't mind if they shuffle the teams around. I do quite like the East versus West aspect of it. That is quite cool. But maybe if 1 year it's you have it on a road and you have Cardiff Scarlets, 1 year Cardiff Ospreys the other way, vice versa with the Dragons, that would be great. I think the only difference it makes with it being a normal home game or away game is the gate receipts. Right. So as far as I remember when I looked at it, basically all the concessions go straight to WRU. And then the gates are split. The two home sides get 40% each. The two away sides get 10% each. That's the difference you are. So actually for the Ospreys, it might work out quite well because 40% of 20-odd thousand people is going to be a lot better than 100% of 3,000.
Our average has gone up to 6,101.
I think that's still less than Cardiff's best attendance this season.
No, we don't go into details. No need to go that far.
But
the thing is,
I was trying to avoid making an Ospreys attendance joke, but
let's avoid.
It's just too easy.
But we say there's 28,000 there. There was at no point was there 28,000 in that stadium, and I think that's the shit, and it's always been the same since the start.
Absolutely.
But you either watch the first game and then go, or if you're in the second game, you kind of troll in about halfway through the first and watch it in the pub, and so that kind of takes away from it. So Dan,
I think that's always going to be a risk when you go double headers, though.
Yeah.
But I think that's we as fans have got to kind of get behind it. That's
all you've got to do, and something that people really want to see at the start and in between the two games. So the sort of in between entertainment, which I've always found that was the bit I usually hated most, and that's when we'd queue up for pies and stuff.
I will be honest, the one time I stayed in between the two games, the one time I stayed to watch the entertainment was when the Saturdays were on. That was the one time I refused to leave my seat. I was standing there with binoculars trying to...
Don't. I think you're going down a hole there. Don't carry on, Lee. That's a word of advice.
Which one's Frankie Bridge? I can't work it out from half a mile away. So, Dan, what did you think of the game? Like, the day coming at it cold.
Well, I think firstly 28,000, because it was more than 28,000 in there, wasn't it? It was 28,200 and something, was it, or 100 and something? So just over 28k. That's more tickets sold than probably if both games were played at Rodney Parade and or Park of Scarlet. So they flogged more tickets than if they were separate games, I would say. I'm willing for someone to come back at me on that and say otherwise. But there's no way that those two teams are selling nearly 30,000 tickets for the respective games. So that's got to be a Brucey bonus. The fixtures of old, and if I remember rightly, there were some issues previously with, like, there were 60,000 people in the stadium once, but there were some issues in there, I think, weren't there, where families were complaining about groups of lads being drunk and stuff like that. There was too much of a drinking culture in there. So maybe it's taken that long to reverse some of the horror stories of old, because, you know, my lad's rugby mad. He's 9 years of age. You go, I'd probably take him to a Judgement Day now, but previously I may not have because of that. You know, have we moved enough away from that sort of culture within the ground? Yeah. And the other thing I think to look at in terms of attendance is, if you look throughout the community game, there was a full fixture list. Every club has played. Now, there would have been thousands and thousands and thousands of rugby fans watching their respective clubs. I mean, Abertillery played away at Bedlin. We took 3 or 4 supporters buses over. Now, if that fixture wasn't taking place because it's Judgement Day, similarly to the international games, then more people go to Judgement Day. I think that needs to be looked at. So then you're looking at you know, when's the best time to do it, and they need to stay. For me, they need to stay away from full community fixture lists wherever possible, and they need to stay away from bank holidays when the weather's generally nice, when families want to go away on holiday. You know, because I got no doubt about it, there would have been, again, thousands of rugby fans that have gone away on a trip this weekend. So on the whole, I think I do like the idea of it. I think it could be more of a day. It should be more of a Super Bowl style spectacle. You know, we mentioned the Saturdays playing at half time and things like that. That sort of thing needs to be done. You imagine what it'd be like if you could have the stereophonics on for, you know, 40 minutes in between games or an hour in between games. It'd be absolutely rammed in there just to go and watch them play. So I think that's important. The timing's everything, isn't it? And if you get the timing wrong, and your target audience is wrong, and you've got some things wrong previously in terms of what the crowd has acted like, they've been in there just swilling beer for, you know, effectively 4 hours whilst they're watching 2 games of rugby. It's a recipe for disaster. So they need to push, you know, those elements a little bit more and try and. But I think it's right to hold it. You know, it could be a really good spectacle. If there were 60-odd thousand in there this weekend, and there was something on both games, then we wouldn't be having this conversation, would we? So it is fixable, and timing is everything. So the day's got to be changed, I think.
I just hope that they take some feedback on this and they listen. You know, people are most rugby supporters are trying to be helpful to the union here. We're not trying to be overly negative. We're just trying to suggest ways it could be improved.
Absolutely. And look, you know, look at it from a rugby, the community game perspective. If I wasn't coaching or with my rugby club, I'd have been down at the game. You know, I may have took my boy, I could have come met you guys, whatever it may have been, and there would have been other. When I'd looked at it before I came on, I thought full fixture list, and it's the business end of the season for every club, whether you're getting relegated or playing for promotion. There are lots of teams that are right at the business end, so you're not going to be wanting to miss games if you're a rugby fan and you're a supporter of your local rugby club. So they've got to change it for me. It either needs to be, you know, on the weekend of Bristol and Bath are playing it, you know, they'll sell loads for that. Can we do that sort of thing? Or do we do it earlier in the year? You know, what are people's thoughts about doing it around Christmas time when we have the festive derbies? Is that an option? I don't know.
Yeah, see, that was mooted before, and it's like, no. That pretty much for the Scarlets, that is their biggest weekend of the season. So it was a no pretty much from the start. But you look at maybe first week of the new year or something like that, then you look at, whichever way you go, there's going to be issues with, okay, that's maybe not perfect, that's maybe not the best time, that's maybe not the best. And without looking at the calendar as a whole, like you say, the community thing, and then you've got, personally, I think the Six Nations was in the wrong place. I prefer to see the Six Nations at the end of the season and just run through the season, and then you finish the season, and then you do. So, you know, I think there's a load of stuff in there. The bit that makes me laugh is with Nick says, I hope that the WRU take on feedback. And yeah, I mean, come on, Nick.
I told him off. I told him I could be a bit naive and optimistic.
Yeah.
Does it have to be a Saturday? Could you do a Friday night games?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Could you think, if you did it during I don't know, October half term, when traditionally Halloween falls, you could have a Halloween themed day, you could do Friday night lights, all the kids would be off school, want to go down and have their faces painted, all the university students are still in, so you could have a family enclosure for those that want a family day. You could do discount tickets for the students to go and drink as much beer as they want and make it a
still have
big
your community
event.
games the next day,
and still have the community games the next day, yeah.
Well, if the WRU want to get some feedback, then they're very welcome to come and have a chat. But I've got a gut feeling that I don't think they will. I'll be honest with you. Right, let's actually move on and talk a little bit about the rugby. So, first game, Ospreys Cardiff, I thought was the better of the two. So, Harley, you get to go first on this one. Your thoughts on your boys in the little jaunty run out?
I mean, yeah, it's one of those weird ones where I feel like the score reflected the game, but also, if we'd lost, I would have it would have been equally deserved, because we ran away with it in that first half, then we switched off then for 38 minutes of the second half, and just about came back to score those two quick-fire tries at the end. It was a good performance from Cardiff. They stood up. I thought they stood up well. I thought their defence was the best I've seen in about 2-3 years. I think it helped that Ospreys are really naive with assuming that in the past they've been able to just send up one-up runners and send our defence in disarray. And actually we just gobbled it up and started nicking their ball the whole time. Despite them having almost double the 50% more carries, they made less than 50% more meters out of it. It was quite interesting because, and Comms did pick up on it as well, Cardiff went for a very backfield heavy setup for most, across most of the pitch. So Ospreys managed to make loads of cheap meters, and then as soon as they got into the 22, it was batten down the hatches, and then we go into clearance. It just wasn't the sort of game I was expecting. I thought we'd do quite well with some of the people out, but I also thought having no McNally and no Ray Lilo would cause problems for us. I mean, discipline was an issue as ever. I mean, no team should concede three cards and win by that many points. That's just not right. I've seen people griping about some of the cards. I think they're probably about fair. The one thing I would say with the young referee was he was very good at giving warnings, but maybe not necessarily acting on it. I think that did benefit both teams, because Ospreys got warned about 3 times before a card.
Wasn't he 21? Did I hear right that ref was 21?
Yeah, he's 21
years old. Sean O'Connor's son, wasn't he? Sean O'Connor's son.
Yeah, former Ospreys there, Sean O'Connor's.
And Dragons.
But the WRU have got an age limit on refereeing now, haven't they? That's so. If you're over a certain age, you're not being pushed as an elite referee. I've been reffed a couple of times this season by some real good referees. The one lad's name escapes me now, but he's from Lantwit Vardra, quality ref. I've spoken to him after games, and he's gone, no, because I'm over 35 or whatever it is, they won't push me any further. They've told me that I'm too old. Yeah.
But then you do want to get, in the same way we want to get young players playing at the highest level, you also need to get young referees involved in that higher game, don't you? So
yeah, there's got to be a trade-off there somewhere, though, wasn't there?
Yeah. It's not a case of any experience is good experience. Like, I say I haven't watched a whole lot of SRC because it's only the one game that's on a week. But I'm not sure I've seen him there, when surely that's the perfect place to develop referees, as we're using it to develop players and coaches. Maybe him having a few games there, maybe going for a smaller game. I feel like a derby's should be quite a big event. That being said, I think a lot of his stuff was fine. I just thought it was quite weird in the cars where he was like, right, you're on a warning now. Right, any more penalties, and someone's off. Right, you've given away some more penalties. You're on a warning now. And it was just like, and it took a while. And then Cardiff got away with the same. But yeah, it was just, I'll be honest, both games were quite flat and awful, really. And you kind of see why people external to Wales are sort of going, well, look, Bristol Bath are coming to town and they're going to show them how they should do events and how rugby should be played. And you're like, yeah, no, but I've also seen how Bristol play and I don't want that.
Well, what I will say, just to go back to that ref for a second, what I did think was good with him was he did make a couple of decisions, and then he's obviously had someone in his ear go, "Hang on, you need to have a look at this," and he's gone, "Right, okay, hang on, I got that wrong. This is my call." Whereas you get some of the older, more experienced, stubborn referees that go, "No, I've made my decision, and we're sticking with it." And I think that was a good thing that it came from him, where he was like, "Hang on, yeah, no, that's wrong. Let's go back and do that."
I think
yellow card. No.
Yeah, I think we've got to remember this as well. First of all, he's very highly thought of. He was good with those little bits where he's questioning his own decision making. Maybe then, like Harley said, his warning of teams, maybe he could work on that. But no, number one, no one's perfect. And if he was a 21-year-old fly half and he kicked a couple of balls out on the full, or he'd made a couple of poor decisions, someone would be going, yeah, but he's the next best fly half in Wales. And this guy could be the next Nigel Owens. So we've got to cut him a little bit of slack. And I got no doubt when he's sort of 5 or 6 years further down the line, those warnings are going to turn into yellow cards and this, that, and the other as he gets, ultimately he's dealing with the likes, there's British Lions and Welsh internationals on the field that are experienced pros that are managing him probably a bit better than he's been managed before. But yeah, I thought he did all right personally. No one's going to get everything right. And like I said, you've got to cut him a little bit of slack due to his age.
No, I agree, but I said that it's more my point of putting him in that situation. Going back to the 21-year-old fly half situation. If he's doing that in a cup final, you're questioning why is he in a cup final. I think like there were other games he could have been making debuts for. I said I think most of all he did have quite a good game. I think he was a little bit harsh in the middle of the decision, but also I've seen every ref give that. I've seen plenty of refs give that as a yellow. I've seen plenty of refs give that as a knock-on only. I think Miller knew what he was doing there. I don't think he was trying to intercept. But, it's the whole... But he's gone out with one arm and he's gone up, which is what, we've been told is if you're hitting the ball up, then it's fine. But on a day, I thought Josh Adams played really well. I know he wasn't scoring tries, which is the thing everyone looks at with wingers, but I thought his link play, his defense particularly was excellent. I thought, and the packs were pretty well. I thought we held up in the scrum. I wasn't too overall. I mean, it's 5 points, and we kept Ospreys to none, which again helps further our cause of making top 8. We're sort of basically taking another person who can take one of those positions out
and help some of us as well. So, yeah.
I was hoping Dragons would do us a favour at watching that first half.
Oh, all right, I'm sorry.
That's it. We're not letting you win a derby next season now.
So, Nick, you had to sit through that, and that must have been quite hard, given how well you have been playing at some points this season.
Yeah, I got no complaints about the ref. As we've talked about, they're human as well. You can always argue about some decisions, any ref. So I have no problems with the ref. And all the results overall, Cardiff are the better team. We made too many mistakes. In fairness to Cardiff, their defence is very good. And when they had limited opportunities in the first half, they attacked really well. And they stressed us out wide, which was disappointing. So and it was a bit like last week against Leon, that when our plan A didn't work and we were bashing away, we didn't sort of have a plan B. I think Dan Edwards has had games which hopefully he'll learn from. He hasn't had his best 2 games. I think we could have kicked it when plan A wasn't working. I think we could have put the ball up in the air a bit more. And I don't blame Dan solely for that. I think we've got 2 experienced by now scrum halves who maybe could take a little bit of pressure off him. But that said, fair play to Cardiff. They nullified our driving line out. Good combination of more defence from Cardiff, and perhaps we're not as good executing as well as we did. I did like what Mark Jones said, because there's been a little bit of talk on social media from Osprey fans and so on that we look tired, and we did. You know, I get that, but if you want to do well in this as a team, and that's what Mark Jones is saying as well, you've got to play these games. You've got to have an extra round. You know, we played one more game in Cardiff, and when you look at the minutes that our lads have played over the season, it's not hugely different to the amount of minutes that the first choices for Cardiff have played, and you know, some like the Bulls, they played, you know, similarly, they've had the same amount of cup games as us, and they went to Munster and won. So I don't think I agree. We can't use that as an excuse if we want to develop as a team. We've got to be in those games and we've got to be making a difference. And it was the same players who had more minutes in the second half who suddenly woke up, stopped making so many mistakes, and we looked far better in the second half. And we did stress Cardiff at times. But, you know, 3 minutes to go, we were in the game, breakaway try, and then another try. I thought it flattered Cardiff a little bit, but I've got no complaints about the results. You know, Cardiff deserved it. Too many players were, for us, just average. Thought Keane Williams didn't stop trying. Morgan Morse both showed his inexperience and his talent in the same game. He just needs more time, but he has got that little bit of X factor. And Jack is just Jack, wasn't he? You know, talk about minutes on the field. He's played more than anybody in the Ospreys and was yet again our best player. So, yeah, I'll be honest with you, I think the season's over for us now. The management and the players aren't going to say that. But to win the next 3 games, which we must do, it's not going to be nothing short of a miracle.
Can I say something controversial as a non-Osprey? And I know you boys are a bit sensitive about, you know, not you, but you know, some of you boys. So if anyone's listening who's an oversensitive Osprey, go have a cup of tea for 30 seconds on it. So for me, you've got Kieran Williams at 12, who's trying to play a very different game to what Mark Jones is trying to instill. And I can see that Kieran Williams is, and we've said this consistently in the past, he's a one-dimensional player. He's a crash ball king. And he's hard to get because he's so short and he's stocky and he's quick and he's got a massive acceleration. So that's what he does. Now he's starting to pass, but he's not committing. He's passing that ball as he gets it, and he's 10 meters behind the line, and then it's going back 5 meters. And there isn't that bit where he takes the ball forward, commits, and then gives the ball. There isn't that decision making that's needed to play that kind of game. So for me, I think you either, if he's on the pitch, you let him play the game that he's good at, and you go, you're crash ball king, and I want you to take, you know, first half crash ball bang, and then you bring on somebody else that can play the ball out. I think he just looks uncomfortable when he's making passes. And I don't really, I'm not saying he can't pass because the passes are accurate. It's not, it doesn't feel natural for him. It doesn't look natural when he's doing it. So I think if he's going to be on the pitch, let him play his game. And I think, and then
I think that's an easier work on for him though than trying to teach someone else that they need to be a crash ball king on top of being a ball player. So you've got Ben Thomas at Cardiff, who's a brilliant ball player, not a crash ball merchant. So I think it's easier to teach Kieran Williams to play, be more of a ball player. That's where Mark Jones got to earn his money here and go, right, how do we upskill him in that department? Because he's already got the dog mentality to go, all right, give me the ball and I'll run over you then. He can do that. He's brilliant at that. Because I think as a 12, you need to have that double threat in there. Because if you've only got a Ben Thomas, in reality, you know that crashing it up is not really going to be your first option from him. He can do it. He's getting bigger, but he's more of a ball player, isn't he? He's a good ball player. And Kieran Williams, you're right, his main threat at the moment is that he can crash the ball up, give you good target, give you good gain line. If you can marry the two together, you end up with someone like a Nonu, who can do both. All right, he was right at the top end of the game, but you see where I'm coming from here, or Sonny Bill Williams, or whatever it may be. And I think it's easier to teach Kieran Williams to do that than it is to teach Ben Thomas to play the other way, because it's a mentality thing, wanting to crash the ball up into collisions. You can't coach the dog into someone. I think he's already got that in him. So I think over pre-season, once Mark Jones had a pre-season, he could become an effective ball player as well. Because like you said, he can pass the ball. His range of passing, his passing is good. The physical skill of passing, but can he be coached over the summer to take the ball to the line a bit more, to engage the front line of defence before he's pulling it back, and so on and so forth? That's the work on for him.
Yeah, it definitely takes the pressure off Dan Edwards.
Yeah, you've got two ball players in there then.
Yeah,
and if Edwards is in. Yeah, sorry, if Edwards is in trouble then, or, when Edwards has tried to take it to the line, you've got that short ball option straight to Kieran Williams, because he can truck it up over the gain line as well. So he becomes double threat then. That's a massive asset if they can get that into his game.
So if you look at the best 12, probably one of the best 12s in the British Isles at the moment, who's unfortunately injured, Sione Tuipulotu, he's a genuine carrying threat.
Yeah,
he's got a unbelievably underrated kicking game, and his distribution is brilliant.
It's good. Yeah.
And Ben Thomas does two of those things, I'd say, as good as any other distributing 12. His crash ball, he's a lot better than he was when he first broke through. Like he can take a contact a lot better. But then if you look at how Cardiff get around that, you can also look at it and say, well, I've got a deficiency in this player. How do I get around it? Cardiff do it by having a more physical winger. So they use a Josh Adams, Gabe Haberweb, Mason Grady to come in and basically run that 12 line, just for that, in that phase if they want to crash up, and then hope that they can ping out the back.
Yeah, and I'm not saying
the problem is then a defence will see
that
that coming. They'll see that if it's not Ben Thomas standing there, they're right. We're going for a crash.
Yeah, exactly. And it's no criticism of Ben Thomas. You look at Ben Thomas, you go, he's got all the ball playing skills under the sun, hasn't he? But then to go, well, actually, 5 or 6 times a game, you're going to have to smash it up into some back rowers as well for me. Oh, great, thanks for that.
Yeah. So I said he's a lot better at it than he was. It's still one of the weaker areas of his game. For me, though, with the Ospreys, I think the thing that I think has worried me most is how their defence has gone, and this is where I think it's a fitness/tiredness issue. So they've conceded 30 points or more in each of the last 4 league games. In the game up until preceding that, so the whole first half of the season, they did it once, and that I think can be a bit of an issue if you're.
We haven't got a defence coach, have we, at the moment, though?
No.
Well, I said you've got Mark Jones who's trying to run that, the attack, everything else. Justin Tipurick's doing it part-time. Maybe he's got a bit more time on his hands and now he's injured.
Yeah. But I think you're right. I think it's an area to work on again over the summer to get much as well we regret, and we do miss Tipurick. We saw that on Saturday, just that experience, that leadership. But at least looking at for the positive, at least he can concentrate on one job over the summer next season.
Okay, let's move on to by far and away the most important game of the weekend, Dan.
Are you discussing Abertillery's win?
Yeah, we'll go back to Abertillery again.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be honest, Dragons and Scarlets, for 60 odd minutes of that game, I was not in any way, shape or form comfortable at all. I had Gavin sitting down in front of me, and Hugh, who won the tickets, and he was a Dragons fan as well. And there was no escape to get from my seats. I would have had to walk past them, and I would like, oh, this is not going well. This is not going well. And then it did. So, yeah, your thoughts on Dragons and Scarlets, mate?
My thoughts. Well, where do you say you can't lose a game? What was it? 20 points to 7 on late 40s, early 50s minutes, there or thereabouts. You shouldn't be losing fixtures from there, and that's ultimately where the Dragons are where they are. You go back to the goal kicking thing, still a problem for the Dragons. They need a goal kicker. On the plus side, I thought Basham and Wainwright were good. They got plenty of gain line, carried the ball hard. that's the one thing they will miss from Tame Basham next season. I think it's the right move for both clubs, Cardiff and the Dragons, actually, because Cardiff probably miss a little bit of gain line. But they just carried themselves into oblivion. And you talk about from a defence perspective, it becomes pretty easy to pick up then, doesn't it? You know, you go, right, Wainwright or Basham are at the arrowhead on the pod of 3 coming around the corner or playing off 10, you know who you're picking out. We just double up on that individual. So that becomes a little bit predictable after a while. But I thought they did well. As a matter of fact, they did really well. Scott Williams, I thought, went well. The old head in midfield. Why he's not played more for the Dragons, I don't know, because he's an old head. He's a decision maker in there. He helps the fly half. He can distribute as well and track it up a little bit. So he gives, as we've just been discussing, I think he can do both of those things effectively, especially for the Dragons. So why he hasn't played a little bit more, I'm not sure, to be honest. But the 2 yellow cards infuriated me. The first one from Dylan Keller-Griffiths, that's a coach killer. You know, you're defending on your line and he sticks his hand in a ruck when he's on the floor. That's sort of under 15 stuff in there, where he's gone and done that. So I found that frustrating. And was it Elliott's default for the collapse of them all? I think they just kind of picked a number and went with it. It could have been anybody's fault. But again, you're going to struggle to win a game with those number of cards. I know Cardiff managed to do it, but the Dragons aren't going to, I don't think. So that's problematic for us. And the other thing that really annoyed me was the backfield coverage. Ross's error, and look, everyone knocks the ball on, and you wouldn't want to swap places with him, would you, in front of 20-odd thousand people? He's knocked the ball on in a bit of backfield coverage. But the Dragons have gone 13-2 in backfield coverage, so it means you've got 13 in the front line, and they've got 2 people covering. The other option you've got is to go 12 plus 1 and 2 on a pendulum, so you've got the scrum half in behind. Lots of teams opt not to do that now, but you have to mirror where you think the kick is coming from. Normally, the way I would work it is you go on the posts, and if the fly half's your side of the post, then you'd stand opposite who you think the kicker's going to be and mirror it that way. But he seems to be too far across the field, so he's got too much ground to make up. Ball's bouncing in front of him, and it wasn't the first time the ball was kicked into that area of the backfield either, was it? They both sat deep. Communication's obviously gone out the window. Ball's been allowed to bobble in front of him, knocked it on or fumbled it or whatever it may be, and they go over for a... You take that try out of the game, the Dragons may win the fixture. And then his brother then goes and concedes another basic penalty for blocking right towards the end, which, you know, ends the fixture completely, doesn't it? Those 3 points were off the floor, were massive. Was it Johan Lloyd kicking as well at the time, who was the highest point scorer in the league? You know, I got no doubt they've been doing their homework prior to playing the Scars. Well, don't concede any points, because irrespective of the way we think that he plays the game at the moment, he's been pretty good off the floor. Yeah. So it's just frustration. I was listening to the Dragons Lair podcast before we came on, and you know, the boys were going, we were never going to win, were we? But I think that's the problem. How and they brought this up on there as well. You know, is it a fundamental thing where even if you're 13 points to the good, you can't see a game out with 25 minutes, half an hour to go? That needs to be altered next year. And whilst I think the signings for the Dragons are positive in terms of the youngsters, they need a couple of decision makers in there and a couple of old heads in there to stay to improve their decision making, the decision making mechanisms, especially in the back line of field. But you know, on the whole, it was probably a C+ or a B for effort from the Dragons. They dug in it, they absorbed a lot of pressure to start off with. But ultimately, I don't know, I've said it a million times, if you're 20 points to 7 up, you need to be winning that rugby match. So good effort, but probably the outcome everyone expected. The other thing I will say, though, the one positive for me is Angus O'Brien came back into the squad. That pass to Ross to score in the corner was like a mystery, where he scanned very quickly. He's seen it outnumbered. He's put a lovely pass in to Ross running onto the ball to score in the corner. If that was anyone else in World Rugby, it'd be clipped up and all over Twitter. I thought that was really, really good. But yeah, it was so close yet so far for the Dragons.
Before we go on to the Scarlets, I thought Ben Carter made a hell of a difference in his physicality. You know, if you look at the stats, went spectacular, but he just brought that physical edge that the Dragons have missed. I thought Dylan Keller-Griffiths looks a prospect. but he's a young lad for a prop, isn't he? But he's got something. But you know, but it was the best Dragons performance I've seen for a long while.
Oh, it's especially going to 20 points. The other, you talk about the second row, right? Ben Carter going in was the right decision. Was playing Woodman alongside him and allowing Cummins to go and play for Pontypool the right selection decision on that? Why do you not play Cummins and Carter together? So you really ramp up that physicality in there, because I don't know, that maybe there's something on an injury. Maybe he's had a bit of a bump or injury, but then why would you go and let him start for Pontypool in the SRC? That was a baffling one for me. And that's not to say that Ryan Woodman's not a good player. He is.
No.
But for me, he's a back row forward and not a second row. That was disappointing. And I think as well the bench was much less impactful than the Scarlets. That's a problem. There's a depth problem, no doubt about it. The Dragons, you know, you're looking at the likes of Will Reed, Joe Westwood coming off the bench, Dane Blacker coming off the bench, that sort of thing. Up front, Rodri Jones, Chris Coleman, they've done all right this season, but it's not the impact that you would like. And ultimately, we've lost the game, haven't we, from 27 up to 31. Was it 31-23? So that's not good enough. That the depth on that bench needs to get better, which I think it will do next year with some of the signings.
So for me, then the frustrating bit, first of all, from a Scarlet, was we were all over you for the first 20 minutes and we didn't get over the line. And I'm sitting
And we
there,
had a yellow card in that time as well.
Yeah. And we were all kind of looking at it, going, you know, this is at the start of the season. That's where we built our games from. You know, we're driving lineouts and in tight. You know, it was very unscarlet like rugby. But it put us in a position where we could play a decent game. So that's a bit of a frustration and a bit of a puzzle. We did it against the Ospreys as well. We had 4 5-meter lineouts from the Ospreys. We didn't convert any. I think we had 5 against you. We converted 1. So, you know, whatever we were doing, somebody's worked it out. This is how you stop it. So we need to, you know, find a new level now of what we do with that. I thought some of our, you know, some of the basics in that first 20 minutes, it didn't help that the stop-start nature of that game was just, you couldn't get a flow. You couldn't pick up the pace, because every 3 minutes there was a let's go and have a chat with the TMO. So I think that kind of did flatten it a little. And I'll be honest, at halftime, I turned to Hugh and I said, I don't think we're going to have this. I don't think we're winning this one. And that was at halftime. So what impressed me in the second half was, in the first half of the season, these were the kind of games where we were behind at halftime. These were the kind of games where we weren't winning. We were coming a bit close and then letting them back in and making silly decisions and panicking, and we didn't panic. Gareth Davis was absolutely superb in the last 20 minutes of just keeping a lid on it, just kind of calming it down, picking the pace up when we needed to pick it up, and then let's really turn the screw and nail them down. And if there's nothing on them, you put it into the corners, and there you go. I thought the big change for us came with Joe Roberts. I think when Joe Roberts came on, it adds an extra dimension, and he was very, very influential going into that last 20 minutes. But what I will say is, when Rosser made that mistake, this is why I think the Dragons are going in the right direction. Okay, by the time Yohan Lloyd, who kicked 5 out of 5, cracking, lovely guy. By the time he got the ball and was coming back, and you might, I don't know if you can see it on telly, but you can see it. And there were 3 players around Rosser going, "Don't worry, you know, don't worry about it. You're okay. You're gonna be fine." And that to me says more about the mentality and the attitude within the Dragons than it does anything else. Yeah, that it doesn't matter if you make a mistake. We're here and we're okay. You know, there's 20,000 people around you allegedly, but you know, this is all you need to worry about, us here. And I thought that was really, really good because he's a young guy. He's got a lot of talent, but to see the other players protect him like that and go, right, okay, scrub it, let's move on. I think for me that was the moment of the game almost. That it's, I don't know, it's that was the bit that stuck in my head. That the try, it was a lucky try, it was a lucky bounce. Yes, he might have been a little bit out of position, but that if that ball bounces a different way, then Blair Murray's not going in for a try. You know, it happens to be that this just went the right way for him. But the bit that sticks in my head is everyone going around him and going, okay, don't worry, let's nail it down, you'll be okay. So yeah, it's not all doom and gloom for Dragons. Don't get me wrong, I'm super chuffed we came away with all 5 points. I would have. Did you get 2 bonus points? No, because you got the
single. No points.
No, no points. Neil
I would have been quite happy for you guys to come away with 2 points and another try at the end. But yeah, it is what it is. It wasn't the most comfortable game to watch as a Scarlet. Certainly for 60 odd minutes, that did not feel very comfortable at all. So let's hope Dragons can maintain that kind of attitude next. Why is it, Dan? Right, answer me this. And I asked Jamie as well, and he was mocking me quite nastily in the pub before. Dragons only turn up for 2 games a season. One of them is Ospreys at Rodney Parade, and the other one is bloody Judgement Day against us.
Yeah.
Yes, through the season, boys. You know.
I know it's a funny old thing, and then effort didn't equal reward on Saturday, did it? Because I thought the effort levels were definitely there. There are some games and some occasions this season where they've just been really overpowered and outgunned, really. But I thought the effort levels were there, and it was unfortunate, really, that era was such a vital time as well. It could have been anyone in that position, and it's unfortunate for young Rossa there that it was him. But yeah, I think you're right. If they'd have come away with 2 losing bonus points, I'd still be kicking myself, thinking, well, should have won that game of rugby really from 20 points to 7 up, but losing sort of 31-30 or 31-29 may have softened the blow a little bit. But the big ones for me, I think, from a Scarlet's perspective, is it Fafita and Lousy? Are you keeping them next season?
Yep.
Fafita he's got 3 years left because he signed a 4-year deal last year.
He signed a long. I think I know what you're going to say.
They're top players. They are. They're top players for the for the Scarlets. I like everything they do. They're real classy. They can handle the ball in the wide channels, but they can mix it up in close as well. They don't have a lot of international duty, so you get to use them all throughout the Six Nations and so on and so forth. What are their eligibility statuses now at the moment?
They're both Tonga.
You dig in.
Unfortunately, they're both capped for top one. I was saying Fafita was capped for New Zealand. I think he has run out for Tonga as well.
I think he's got an All Black cap, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's got an All Black cap, but under the new rules, isn't there? If you've not been capped for X, like it could be a Henry Thomas situation.
Blood relation only. So you've got to have a blood.
He can go to Tonga, can he? He played for Tonga soon, yeah.
He didn't he?
Did he play
adopt him or something?
No, unfortunately not.
That finish was class, wasn't it? Because
it was class, yeah.
It's not many 8s who would finish with such a plum. You sort of knew he was going to score.
Yeah, and it's typical South Sea Islander, isn't it? And the way they got the ball in one hand and that sort of thing. They just think they use class. They're 2 real good pickups for the Scarlets over the last couple of years, and tying them down to long-term contracts is great business, because I think when those 2 are on fire, Scarlet's a difficult team to beat. And if you can add in the summer to that pack a little bit more, and add, the pack's improved as well this year. Mine is much better than it was last season. But I think they're 2 brilliant players that any region I think would have in their team.
I got one complaint. Complaint.
Yes, go on, Nick. Go on in.
I had 4 bloody Scarlets fans right behind me, screaming in my ear. And I wasn't the happiest after our game. Actually, 2 of them, Kerry and Gwawr, I've known since the early 80s. So, and it was just coincidental. They were sitting right behind me. And I was, come on, Scarlets.
Well, before the game, we and you'll see this on the video in the week. So I was talking to Gareth from the Dragons pod and we were in Tiny Rebel, and we were just getting ready to go, and he came in, and I was all right. Let's get a quick prediction from you then. And then now I don't know for definite, but I think he may have had one or two before I asked him for his prediction. So he starts giving, we're going to do this, so we're going to do this, we're going to do this. And then he's got dragons. Jamie was hiding under the table. Jamie went, oh, good go. He was like, and I'm like, oh crap, when do I stop recording? When does this get uncomfortable? Like, So but yeah, everyone had a good day.
Good day out.
Right. Let's before we move on to previews then, so if you are liking what you're hearing and seeing, to please give us a rate and a review, give us a subscribe on YouTube. That would be very nice. You get to see all of the other lovely pods. Women's pod did very well last week, Harley. They're growing in confidence and time.
Seriously, clearly I was the issue all along, so I'm glad you keep awesome means I don't have to talk about that game.
Yeah, but then the bit I love about the women's pod is they will do the pod and then they'll tell me all about the things that they just done in the pod for another hour after. So I'm like, I don't need to listen to the pod now, girls. So yeah, they've done really well, and they reviewed previewed the game against Ireland as well. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that we'll have a review of that game this week as well.
So it should be review of that. So because they're trying to go more women's focus, we'll be going through the whole Six Nations, previewing their version of Super Saturday. Also catch up with the WER, which is Women's Elite Rugby, which is the American competition, which I highly recommend watching. It's for free on DAZN. That's DAZN. You know what? Absolutely fantastic. The community game vibes is just through the roof. It's just great. You've got, I think last year, the team I've sort of normally supported, the Boston Breakers, had 18 starting in the second row. So clearly they were just basically going whichever jersey fits, and nothing says community rugby to me more than the number you wear is the shirt you can grab. Hence why the game I played on the weekend, the scrum half had the number 8 jersey.
obviously, mate. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to make one more appeal again. If any Scarlets fans want to come and take over from me in the same way Dan is going to take over from Jamie, do please let me know, because it would be good to hand this over to somebody else and let you have the enjoyment from it that I have over the last 3 years. Okay. So let's look ahead. So we've got Cardiff, Munster, Ospreys, Dragons, Scarlets, Leinster. 3 massive games this weekend. Let's start Friday night. Cardiff, Munster. Yeah, over to you, Harley. Thoughts on this one?
So this is a season-defining game for Cardiff. It just is. We get a 5-point win in this, then we're in with a sniffer playoffs, and the South Africa tour is more about trying to pick up a few points and seeing where the land lies, as opposed to desperately needing a win.
Yeah.
So this sort of keeps our fate a bit more in our hands. Otherwise, for Munster, it's the exact same story. They're a couple of points behind us in 8th. They're sort of just on the cusp. It's they've had a lot of their players come back, but I still don't think they've quite clicked. They've had trouble all year round, whether it's with their annual injury crisis or things. They've lost to the Bulls last week, which I think is going to make them hurt. I was kind of hoping they might have snuck into a semi-final for the Champions Cup, just because they've been a bit more focused on that. They're a team we have a good record with at Cap, so I'm hoping that continues. But they're quite a physical side, but they do have backs who can drift out wide. I think if we can try not to get bogged down in forward play, you don't want the likes of Peter O'Malley running riot over the breakdown and the line out. Let's go. One thing I did point out when I was looking at the stats is they seem to be worse than us on their own ball at line out times. So that might be an opportunity for the likes of Teddy Williams and Josh McNally, who should be back. as a way to sort of stem the tide. I mean, we talk about how valuable Fafita and Lousy are. I think the thing they're most valuable is how good they are at pinching opposition line-up ball, which 10, 50 meters from your own line is an absolute godsend to be able to just yoink off and then rinse and repeat. And you have a lot less. There's a lot less of debate about whether or not you do kick to touch or whether you keep on field when you're kicking. Because if you've got someone who's reliable at pinching the ball back, it's effectively like having your own line out. So I think that's the other, I think Cardiff should win based on what they've been showing all season. However, Cardiff are a team that are really bad at backing up results. I found basically as long as I follow Cardiff really. So I am quite nervous. We had this a bit last season when it was like, right, we need these results for an easy run in for the playoffs, and it was basically the exact opposite every single time. I said there's no reason we shouldn't be going for a full team. We didn't really have any injuries at Judgment Day. A few players coming back, a few people out long term. That's a start. We found out Will Davis-King's just come out of surgery, which means he's definitely not playing, but that's not a huge loss as long as Abertillery and Littler fit. I said I'm confident. I think it should be a fun game. It should be quite a fun game because both teams do really want to throw it about, but Munster will always go to the well if they need to.
Okay. Well, you are in 6th on 41 points. Well, you're 6th with Benetton are on 41 points as well in 5th. And then Munster are on 40 points in 7th, along with the Stormers as well. So, yeah, it couldn't get any tighter than that. So I'm assuming televisual entertainment, is it on the box? I'm assuming it's a Friday night game, so I'm assuming it's going to be on BBC.
It's not, as there's no other region, it should be the BBC One Wales game. What we've fallen foul of in the past is that it'll be us and Scarlets or Ospreys playing, and they get the game. They get the BBC game.
Very negative.
According to your app, it is on BBC Wales.
Cool. Okay.
So I'll still probably watch it on Premier because there's less lag in Devon.
Oh, do you know what? On Judgment Day, and Hugh didn't tell me until we got out of the stadium and were a mile away. He said, so he did a little piece to camera. We were right at the end of where the hospitality boxes are. In front of the hospitality boxes, they have a little enclosure to keep the sheep together. So we were right next to that. And as we got out, so in between the games, Hugh he jumped over the little bit so there was nobody there, and he did a piece to camera, and he had a little look in the hospitality box, and he got to the end and he said, "Do you know who was entertaining in the hospitality box?" No. So, Tom Shanklin, your friend Tom Shanklin. And I go, oh, and that's why I didn't tell you until we were out in the stadium. So yeah, Mr. Shanklin was literally
I think that's
80%
of his income is that.
Okay, let's move on to Saturday afternoon then. So I'm assuming, as this is a Welsh derby, this won't be on telly. It'll only be on Premier Sports. So
that is correct.
That is correct. Well done, me. So, Nick, I'm assuming that you're going to hope that this is Tipperick's final game if he's back and fit. And Dan, I'm going to assume that you hope it's Tipperick's game and he plays the whole 80 because he's not fit. So, Nick, you're the home team. You get to go first. You give us your thoughts on this week's game.
Well, we're going to have, there's a very chance we could have 3 consecutive losses, both in actual games and in league games. So I'm just hoping we execute it a bit better. And I'm not sure Tipperick will be involved. It's in a typical bad luck that Ospreys have when they want to market a game a certain way, and I'm sure they have plans to do it, and it's not going to work out that way. Hopefully, maybe Jack maybe needs a rest. And I wouldn't be at all surprised. I think maybe I'd give Dan Edwards a rest. I guess this week we might have some information about who's leaving at the end of the season, because it'll be the last home, certainly for the Scarlets and the Ospreys, and Cardiff, the last home game, isn't it? So you would hope that it would give the opportunity for fans to say farewell to certain players. Yeah, just hope we get over the line this time and play with a little bit more precision, a little bit more accuracy. If we do that, I think we still should win. But I'm not confident because I've been quite disappointed in the last two performances.
Okay. So, Dan, the Ospreys are there for the taking. Are you feeling confident?
No, Dragons by 50. Simple, really. No, hey, look, there's nothing on it for the Dragons, is there? I think the Ospreys are just looking at the table now. They're on, 33 points. They need 5 points and results to go their way, really, to have anything out of it. So it's a little bit do or die for the Ospreys if they've got any playoff aspirations whatsoever, because then, like everybody else, they go on holiday to South Africa. It's the simple fact of the matter is for the Dragons is if they don't match the physical confrontation that they're going to receive up front, then it's going to be a long day at the office, which is where I'd be shipping Woodman out to the second row and bringing Cummins back in if he's fit and available. I'd be keeping the likes of Basham and Wainwright together in the back row to really, make it as confrontational as possible. So is there a chance? Yes, there is a chance if the Dragons play as well as they did if they defend as well as they did in the first half and then play as well as they did sort of from 40 minutes to, 55 minutes or 60 minutes, then we're in with a chance. We know that there's probably not going to be much of a crowd down there, so it's not going to be such an intimidating place to go and play rugby. But ultimately, the Ospreys must start as favourites, I would have thought. But is it a good time to play the Ospreys? They're on the back of a couple of defeats. Like you said, are they going to start resting people ahead of the tour to South Africa? Are they already thinking that their season's done and dusted? Let's not forget, last season they really did creep in late to the playoffs. They picked up a result out in South Africa last year as well, didn't they? So it's not beyond their capabilities to go and do so. And that's what worries me, really. If you're Mark Jones, you're going, look, we got to go out there and thrash the Dragons on the weekend. We got a minus 41 points difference or thereabouts. So we need to go and score some tries. We got nothing to lose. Let's go out there and do it. And if that happens, it may be a long day at the office. But yeah, if we can match the physical battle that's going to come up front, then we stand a chance. If we're not going to, and if we're not going to get off the line and try and put some shots in, then it's going to be a long day at the office, I would have said. But the old starters favourites for me.
I just want to hop in because I do think, because it was something that was raised on Dragons Day, which I recommend everyone listen to, and Dragons fans especially, if they're not already. Obviously,
Great
Cardiff and both Leon sort of showed how to get around the Ospreys, and it is literally just getting around them there because their wide defence just isn't quite there for reason we've discussed. And Dragons, probably their best asset is they've got some very good back three players. If Hugh Anderson's fit, they probably could run around and score some points, and then they're making a game of it. I mean, the trick against the Ospreys is always, if you can get parity up front, take them out wide.
Yeah,
because,
it comes down to that.
They'll pass to get out wide. But
they're
slow
Harley,
to get out wide, and they're slow to defend out wide as well.
Yeah, I agree. And I agree with what the boys said on the Dragons Layer podcast. That's where they have been coach up. But, you've got to have parity up front. If you can't win collisions and your scrum is struggling and you're being mauled to death at line-out time and so on and so forth, then it's all well and good having aspirations to spray the ball wide and try and bring Hugh Anderson into the game. But you've got to win collisions first. It's as simple as that for me. We have to have parity up front. You've got to at least have parity in that physical confrontation. Otherwise, we end up going nowhere, and we just end up playing behind the gain line. We go side to side a lot. We run out of puff and then kick the ball away.
Okay, so you boys all think that you've got a hard game this weekend. So Scarlets entertained Leinster this weekend, which, I mean, I was just looking at the fixtures and where everybody plays everybody in the table. So you got 2 plays 3, which is Glasgow play the Bulls, Sharks play Ulster. So Ulster are in 10th, one below us. So then you got Cardiff and Munster 6 and 7, and you got Benetton and Stormers who are like 5 and 8. So everybody's kind of close to where they, apart from we're playing someone that's 8 positions above us in the league. it's hard for me to be realistic with this one, because it's, we've a lot of the early season form that we had seems to have gone out the window. We were really starting to get into a good flow. We were starting to play interesting rugby. We were starting to, develop some real powerhouses up front. I think we lost a couple of key players through injury. We met Max Douglas. He was sitting a couple of rows in front of us on Saturday, so we said hello to him. So he's injured at the minute. And he's got a brother, not a twin. He's got a brother that it's hard to tell the two of them apart. Genuinely, same haircut, same moustache, or it was really bizarre. So, yeah, I mean, where do you go with Leinster? Where do you look for an opportunity with Leinster? I mean, to be fair, I think Ospreys pushed them really, really close when they were at home, but I think that was in the middle of the Six Nations, wasn't it? And they were missing, 74 and a half of their players, and their seventh team turned up. But we won't be so lucky this time. I think it's a hard day for us. We need to get something. We need to get something, and we go, look, let's go get a bonus point, a 4-try bonus point. Let's just throw everything at running the ball in. If we get our defence right, maybe we might stay in the game. I can't see us running away with it. But what we know from Leinster is every now and again they'll have an off day, and 9 times out of 10 when they have an off day, they squeak home by 1 or 2 points. There's hope. There's hope that might happen. If it does, then we're staying in playoff contention, mainly because all the teams above us are all playing each other. And so, there's stuff there to play for. And it's a really, really tight league. Anywhere in between 4th and 14th, realistically, are still in it. If Ospreys put 5 points over the Dragons on the weekend, then you're up level with us. And, we're 1 place outside of the playoffs. So, there's still a lot there to be played for. What I really, really hope for this weekend is that fans turn up at Scarlets. I'm going to try and go myself. It is superhero day, so it's a fancy dress day at the Scarlets. It's come in whatever superhero outfit you can get hold of. My Wonder Woman outfit may get another run out. You never know. But yeah, it's a family day. It's going to be a fun day, but I just want us to make it as intimidating as hell for Leinster when they step out on that pitch and really say to them, this is the kind of place that you don't want to come anymore. There isn't any respect for Leinster. We're gonna, give you everything that you want. So, yeah, I mean, it's Leinster, innit? It's Leinster.
One thing you could do is get the Ospreys marketing team say about how it's Archie Snyman and Geordie Barrett are coming out to play. At least then those two will be left behind.
Let's avoid the subject of the Ospreys marketing team and remember that you said that, not me. Yeah. No, I mean, this is a massive game for Scarlets. And if we get the marketing right on this and we do get, 10, 12,000 there, then we could make it a real intimidating place for Leinster to come. And I hope, same as you guys, that we get a list of these are the people that are going. It's always the last home game of the season where everyone hangs around, they all do photos, they do presentations on the pitch. If I was the Ospreys, I'd be having, Tipperick would be working overtime on Saturday, after the game. He'd be doing all sorts of stuff because fans want to see him. Fans want to go and shake his hand and say thank you and just, it's been great to all of that kind of stuff. I have a feeling that there's going to be a couple from the Scarlets as well that, we haven't really seen this season that are going to go. And we want to say the same to them. So, yeah, just hoping for a big day. Hoping for a big day on that one. Unless anyone else has got a way of beating Leinster.
I mean, one thing that will be in your favour is they're effectively guaranteed top spot. They're not guaranteed yet, but they're effectively guaranteed top spot. You know, their last game is against the team in second at home. So, you know, and they've got Zebra in round 17. I imagine they're going to be focusing more on that
final coming up.
Yeah, so I think they're going to be focusing far more on the Champions Cup semi-final. This is their year for that 5th star. So I think that's, you know, much as it has been last year's, this year is really the year they've got to go through. So I can see it being a bit more of a second fiddle. You know, it's going to be a bit more second fiddle. The problem with is the Leinster second fiddle team is stronger than about 80% of the URC first teams.
Yeah.
You know, other than on paper with the Sharks first team, which somehow isn't.
Let's not start slagging off Leinster because Caelan is still getting comments from a couple of mentions that he gave to Leinster team last Sunday. So
all my information is from that Caelan. By the way, whenever I talk about anything with Irish rugby, it's all that Caelan.
All about that kid. Right. Okay. Let's round it up then, Harley. So this is your little bit. So how did the predictions go last weekend, Harley? Indulge us some more in who did really well on Judgment Day.
Well, one person managed to get max points, and that was producer Lee, including getting the Scarlet score bang on thanks to that late Ewan Lloyd penalty, which just made me fume. I was just so annoyed with the Dragons. I predicted them to win, more just to try and, as a gambit of, I'll probably either end up last or first with it. They let me down. So now Jamie is still in the lead, so no pressure, Dan, as you're predicting for him this week. So he's on 126 points. Lee is then very narrowly behind on 123 with 3 games left to go. Then it's me on 119 and Nick on 117. I'm sure he'll moan about his predecessor, but the breaks.
No. You just got to get on with it.
And if you're interested in the number of how many points complete off we are in total, Jamie is 375 and Lee is last with 500 points clear. So that's how bad we are as a deviation from the actual scorelines.
Are you going to produce like a spreadsheet, like a graph at the end of the season comparing last year's performance to this year's performance, Ali?
I can do if I can find the old prediction league, because Lee wiped it off. He was that embarrassed with his performance, he deleted it from the Google spreadsheet. I didn't have a chance to save it
somewhere, mate. It'll be there somewhere. Right.
Anyway, getting into the actual business of predicting this week, Dan, as the sort of guess but not guess, because you're going to be taking over, I'll let you go first. So if you can predict in order: Cardiff Munster, Ospreys Dragons, and then Scarlets Leinster, please.
Okay, Cardiff Munster, Cardiff by 5. Ospreys by 10. And unfortunately, I think Leinster by 20.
Excellent. Nick, on to you.
So Munster by 6.
Boo.
Ospreys by 5 and Leinster by 10.
And Lee, your predictions?
Okay, so I'm going to go Cardiff by 4 on that.
He's gaming the system here.
I am. I'm going to go Ospreys by 11.
See what you're doing there?
And Leinster by 19.
It's going to be, is it?
Leinster by 19, I reckon.
This is going to kill me. See, I had this last year. Like, this is the one game where I know that I head and heart and
look, go with your heart. Scarlets by 40.
Leinster by 1. He's
bottled that. He's bottled it.
On.
Oh God! Oh, that's gonna come back and bite me next week.
Dr. Harley.
As for myself, I've gone for Cardiff by 5, Ospreys by 9, and I think Leinster by 12. Mostly because Scarlet's defence, in terms of the number of points they concede, actually is pretty good. So they don't tend to get blown away too much. They don't tend to concede more than 30 points. Well, they've only done it once. Yeah, I've got the spreadsheets out in your defence.
Yeah, I think with the Scarlets, in reality, it's going to come down to who Leinster bring over. Yeah, if they decide they want to come fully loaded, or anywhere near fully loaded, it's going to be a long old day at Park Scarlets. I just don't see them doing it. That's maybe you're right.
I think you've just gone and blown it out the water now, Harley, because you said, "Oh yeah, they're not going to bring them out, and it's going to be close." And it's just this is how Jamie feels every time I predict the Dragons win. This is it's not good. Right, gentlemen, pleasure as always this evening. Thank you very much for your time and attention. I hope we do it all again, same time, same place next week as we near the squeaky bum time of the season. So all that's left me to say is enjoy your rugby. See you next week, gents. Cheers.